Hey everyone, it's Alexis. I hope you are all doing well. Happy New Year. I can't believe we're in 2023, but needless to say, we are ready for another year of memories here at Sizzix, and I'm ready for another year of memories in my own life. And that is the inspiration behind today's video, actually. I have a background in memory keeping and scrapbooking, and it is one of my lifelong loves. I've been doing it since I was 10, and I've been keeping a journal since I was even younger. And so when we come out with new dies every year, I try to really kind of envision how I want to incorporate them into my crafty life, you'll say. And I got to thinking, what are some big things that I want to kind of memory keep for the year? And one of them is celebrations. I am someone who loves birthdays. I love capturing those moments with friends and family and really just kind of putting them into a place so we can commemorate really important milestones in our lives. And a lot of my best friends last year had babies, so a lot of them this year will be having first birthdays. And so I was trying to think of some fun ideas for them, and it got me thinking, well, why don't I share that with everyone else? So I am kind of focusing in this video in on celebrations, but I also have projects to kind of show you how they can be evergreen and little fun techniques that you could then incorporate on any other project. So stick around. I promise it'll be worth your while, even if you aren't celebrating a first birthday this year. Maybe you're just celebrating life in general, and you can incorporate these things into fun parties that you're doing. But there's nothing better than taking those milestone moments and capturing them and turning them into forever memories. And so I'm going to walk you through a few different project ideas, all centered around a first birthday and florals, because we're heading into spring. I know it's still snowing in a lot of places right now, but we have some lovely florals from Jess that I want to show you all. And I just wanted to kind of walk you through my process and how I think up things, because what is it about a creative community? We get to share our crafty minds together. I would love if you would share in the comments below what you are planning to kind of celebrate and commemorate this year. If you are going to be scrapbooking or memory keeping, what maybe you're thinking of doing, because maybe you might inspire me or someone else who's watching this video to do that this year. So let's get right into our video. So the first make I want to highlight today is kind of the make that got me ready and wanting to make all kinds of stuff for spring. And like I said earlier, I have a lot of friends that had babies last year, and this year they will be celebrating their first birthdays. So I wanted to kind of get a jump start on potentially some gifts I can give or things that I can do that are special for them to commemorate those days. And I started off scrapbooking as my main kind of way into crafting. And so it's my love. It's my favorite thing to do. I don't get to do it as often as I'd like because scrapbook pages take a bit of time to put together. But I think that it's important to do that because memory keeping is something that is near and dear to my heart for a variety of reasons, but mostly because you kind of look back on these things many years later and they all have really special memories. I look through my baby book all the time that my mom has put together, and there's something really nice about capturing those milestones. So I knew I wanted to keep the layout fairly simple in the sense of I didn't want a ton of stuff on the page, even though I know it looks like there's a lot on there, but I wanted to keep it really simplistic in the techniques as well. Mixed media is very big in scrapbooking, and I love mixed media, but I wanted something very clean and simple for the photos I had. And that's one thing I wanted to point out is I matched my pattern papers to the photos. And I have pulled pattern papers from our pattern paper pack. Right here, it comes with 80 sheets. They're double-sided. You get them in our 20 core colors. There are beautiful polka dots and really cute hearts. There's nice leaves and kind of geometric shapes. You've got stripes and grids, and you've got one of all of these in here for each of the 20 colors. So lots of fun to play around with. And I ended up choosing 3 different colors in particular. So I went with like the primrose, the limoncello or banana blast, and then the ballet slipper, because these were colors I noted in the photo that were pinks and yellows. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to play around with what's in my photos. And I think that's something that's really nice, especially when you don't want something to be too busy. If you've got color photos, start with the photo and try to pull out the colors that already exist in there, because then when you blend everything together, it's going to be more cohesive. Another great way to have a play with color is to print off your photos in black and white. Black and white allows you to basically then do any color palette you want. But if you want to capture the true vitality of the moment, you can always obviously print in color. I did want to show you something that I like to do is I like to resize my photos. So this is just your typical 4x6 kind of thing, but then I didn't want 3 big photos on my layout. So I ended up resizing a couple of the photos down, and then you can print them off or you can have a specialty company print them off. Something I like to do now is just to memory keep and scrapbook the milestone moments. So I don't scrapbook everything. So I will invest the time and money in getting my photos printed in specialty sizes. Something that I like to do because I think it's fun to have specialty sizes. Some of you have photo printers at home. You can do it that way as well. I am not that fancy. I have to have mine sent out. But I chose the colors based upon the photos. You obviously can choose whatever colors you want, but that's something I recommend so that it all feels very cohesive at the end. And then I wanted to keep my actual die sets to a minimum as well. So I've only worked with a couple that come from chapter 1. The first one is called Variety Sentiments, and you'll notice these are very decent sized script sentiments. But what I love about these is that you can kind of play around for any occasion all throughout the year. They're very evergreen. They work really well for any kind of celebration or Mother's Day, Father's Day, thank you, new baby, new home, congratulations. So basically any moment that you have in life, this will kind of get you covered. Anniversaries, weddings, you name it, it's ready to go. And it's a nice script font. I'll show you in a little bit what I did with that to kind of make it fun, because I don't think you can tell from above that it's very 3-dimensional. And then I wanted to play around with florals. So there are 2 flower sets that I love in chapter 1. And the first one is called Boho Bouquet, and this is by Lisa Jones. And you'll notice there's a lot of stems, kind of a little bit more organic and hard edges. And the flowers I've used there in very small amounts and tucked them in here and there because I really wanted to use this Floral Cluster by Jess. And now these are, I feel like a little bit more, I don't know if cartoonish is the right word, but they just don't feel like what real flowers would look like, which I kind of love because it gives you an illustrative vibe. So with those, I use those as kind of my main focal points because the flowers one were a lot larger, and then that allowed me to bring in more detail with the Boho Bouquet. So those are the 3 main sets I've used. I've also pulled in some stuff from Essentials. So this is Tim Holtz's Alphanumeric Stretch, and the numbers come in the lowercase set. So I've used that and I've pulled that in. I did try to add some fun kind of like, I don't know if it's mixed media so much as just some fun different techniques and elements to the page to just give it, I don't know, those details. I love little details on scrapbook pages and finding them. So with this one, the one, I could have just done that in color, like the white color is the rest of it, but I wanted to have it really be the focal point of like, what milestone moment is this? And this is the first birthday. So because the gold in the balloons was there, I was like, I'm going to do a gold one. So I took a piece of white cardstock and backed it in an adhesive sheet. And then I die cut into the adhesive side of the sheet. And then when I peeled the backing off, I took some of our decorative foil sheets in gold and just tapped it on the one and kept tapping it until I got the transfer of the gold that I wanted. So decorative foil sheets are a great way with adhesive sheets to add just a little bit of bling. I could have done that on the flowers as well, but again, I didn't want to overwhelm the layout, but these are just little things you can do to add a little something to your layouts. So let me get all this out of the way, and I'm going to go into what I did to kind of bring out the flowers, because as you can see, they all have these really beautiful little stitching details. But you'll also notice I decided to do tone on tone. So these particular flowers are layered. So you get a background piece that's more of like a framelit and cuts out a solid background. And then you get the decorative piece that goes and fits on top. So you could do different colors below and have that color showing through. That could be really pretty. I wanted to keep them very tone on tone, so I cut them both out of the same color cardstock, and then I added in my little details. Now, I think it's important to note here, it takes a bit of time when you're doing stitching, and if you're going to incorporate stitching into any of your makes, know that you're going to be doing it for a little bit of time. I'm personally one of those people that loves to take my time when I'm crafting, and I find something very therapeutic and calms me down and slows me down. And stitching has become something that I am not an expert at, but I have started to incorporate into my makes more and more because I genuinely enjoy the small details on my memory keeping books and on my cards and things like that. So I'm going to show you the basic stitches that I used on the scrapbook page. I'm going to actually do a tutorial on it, but I will tell you the names of the stitches if you want to go specifically look for stitching videos on YouTube and see how experts are doing. It's because that's certainly who I watched and learned how to do it. But I'm going to walk you through the stitches that I did on this particular spread, just so you can see how easy it is for someone who has no experience to actually start to incorporate that. So as you can see, the stitching, it does take a bit of time, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but I'm someone that really genuinely loves adding those small little details. And like I said, it is kind of therapeutic for me to come in and add all of those little fun textural three-dimensional moments, we'll say, onto the layout. So I decided to employ, we'll say, 3 different types of stitches on here. And I am by no means an expert when it comes to stitching. I had to watch YouTube videos myself to teach myself how to do these, but there are 3 stitches I'm going to show you that I used. Now, what I did to separate the 3 different pattern papers was I wanted to get very tonally similar thread, and I did 6 string on all of these just so it was really bulky. So I chose a pink and a yellow that matched with the papers I had, but were a kind of a darker contrast so that I would have that clear definition between the layers. It also allowed those colors, I think, to punch out a little bit more. So the particular stitch I used on those is called a chain link stitch. Now you can feel free. I will not be offended if you need to Google these stitches and YouTube them and all that. I am going to show you each of the stitches and how I did them. But like I said, I am a newbie to this as well. So I'm going to do my best to teach you all. And if you need a better tutorial, there are plenty on YouTube that I have watched myself. So the first is the chain link. And I'm going to hold this up nice and close so that you can see that the chain link kind of is like a loop into the hole. So I've already done 2 so that you can see how you do this. Now to get the next one, you go back through the hole, but you create a loop right here. So you don't want it, you want to keep that open so that you can then stitch through that. And you want to keep it nice and straight. You don't want any kind of circle, any twisting. And then you're going to go back up through the next hole, and you're going to pull that needle through that loop that you created. And then you're going to pull straight, nice and slow. You don't want to get your thread all tangled. Believe me, I've done that many times. And then you'll see it creates a nice little loop right there. Don't worry, I'm gonna do it a couple times. So then that hole that we came back up through, we're gonna go back down again. And again, we're gonna create a loop on this front side. And I like just putting my thumb in there because that kind of holds it in place. And then you're gonna go back through the next one in the back, and you're gonna pull that needle up and through the loop, and then just pull straight, nice and slow. And then you can see as you keep going, you're gonna create this chain link. I'll do one more just to be safe. Now, I will say the easiest way to do this is to glue down all the paper that you want to kind of stitch through, we'll say. And then I took a ruler and figured out the kind of differences I wanted in between each of my chain links. So I took a ruler, I'll grab one right here, before I started, and I laid it down. You can do inches, millimeters, whatever you prefer. And I knew I wanted these all 1/4 of an inch apart. So I started right here and I just poked holes all the way along my layout. And then it made it easy. I could just go through. If you're someone that doesn't care about it being perfectly symmetrical, you definitely don't need to do that. But as someone who wanted mine to like look normal, I did that. And it also just makes it easier. You don't have to like push through too hard. So that's your chain link stitch. Now on the florals, you'll see I did these lovely 3-dimensional kind of knots. These are French knots, and they're actually a lot easier than I thought they were gonna be. I am going to tie off my ends real quick, just do a double loop. There is a special way of doing this. I still can't figure out how to do it. So be on the lookout for it. I just double knot it and try to make sure that I'm not being a complete fool. So what I like to do is I've already taken those 2 pieces and glued them together. And then I am taking this nice gray foam mat from our paper sculpting toolkit. And I want to do 3 French knots. So I literally just take a die pick and I push 3 holes in there. And that way I know where my 3 knots are going to be. So the first thing you're going to do is make sure you've tied off the end of your string because you want to have a nice firm tug at the end. And I'm going to go up through the back side through one of the holes, and I'm going to try to hold my needle while I do that. And you're going to pull it all the way up until you get that nice kind of firm tug. Then you're going to go back right here and you're going to wrap the thread around the needle at least 3 times. And then once you've done that, I'm going to put that tip of the needle back in and pull it through very nice and slow. Do not go fast on this part because otherwise your knot will look very funky. And then you pull it all the way through and you get this lovely little knot. So I'll do that again. You go up through the back. You're going to pull it through. You want to get down here at the base and wrap that around at least 3 times. Sometimes you can do 4 if you want. And then you're going to place the head of the needle back through the hole and then just pull slowly. And again, you get those lovely little French knots. So that is, like I said, I'm not perfect at this. I am learning these myself, but I love that I can take something new that I've learned and start incorporating it into my makes and giving them new details that I've never done before. I've seen stitching before, but because I've never been really good at it, I was like, I can't do that. So I taught myself how to as best I could, and I messed that one up. So normally I'd go back and fix that, but
we're live, so I can't. But I would go back and I would just redo this last one because I don't like how it turned out. But that's kind of how you do, and then you just tie it off in the back and glue it onto your scrapbook page. Then there is the back stitch. Now the back stitch is, I think, one of the easier ones, but you'll notice that these particular flowers don't have anything on them. They are just plain basic shapes. So what I did is I started in the center and I added holes, evenly spaced, 2 up from the center on each petal. And then I knew in the middle I was going to do a French knot, so I didn't really care how the middle looks. Now I'm going to tie this off again so I have a nice little knot at the back of my flower. And I knew that all of these were going to be glued onto my page dimensionally. So that's another thing, is if you don't want super dimensional scrapbook pages, then maybe do less thread or don't add stitching. Let me just get this one more knot. Having difficulty. Was going great until this last one. Here we go. Again, I know that there's a special way to do this, and I'm sure those of you who are super talented with embroidery or stitching of any kind will let me know in the comments where I can find how to create that. So I'm going to go up through the middle right here. Okay. And I went through the wrong one. This is what happens. I had to go through the one up above. And then I'm going to go underneath right here, the top. And then I'm going to go back into that center one. So you start getting a really nice kind of just 2-stitch kind of thing. Then I'm going to go up through the center and to the next leaf and pull that through. I'm not being very gentle. When I did this, I was very gentle with my paper. So go up through that top part and go back. Whoops. So you can see you start to get this stitch. So you just keep repeating that all the way. Let's pretend I did this all the way through. I'm gonna do one more just so that you have one half of it done. So I'm gonna go back up through the center of the flower, and I'm gonna go across and through that middle one. And then I'm gonna go up through the top one and go through the back of that and bring that back towards the middle. Okay. Then when you get to the end, you're just going to go back up through the middle and do your French knot. So you'll go back up through the middle. You'll run it around 3 times. And then you're going to take that and point the needle back through that center hole and try not to stab yourself like I just did. Ow. I am notorious. This is why I probably have not done stitching, because I am notorious for just not being very careful with the needle when I push it through. So try not to do what I did. Get a thimble for yourself. Okay. And I'm just going to pull that through. Get it nice and tight. So if we had gone through the whole flower and done our stitches, and then we would have at the end done the French knot in the middle. So this is what I aimed for on these ones. So I did the back stitch to the French knot. These ones I did the French knot. On the singular ones I did a French knot. On the paper I did a chain link, which as you can tell I was learning how to do, so it's not perfectly spaced, but I'll tell you the more I've done it, the better I've gotten at it. And that's kind of the whole point, is just trying new things and seeing how you get along with them. One other little piece I want to show you. Pull this off to the side because I need to put this at an angle. So one other little detail that I did is you can see how I've made this dimensional. So when you cut these out, they're very intricate. They're very kind of script oriented. So what I did was take these and cut them out of white cardstock that was backed with adhesive sheets. And I cut it out 5 times, each happy, each birthday. Cut them out 5 times, and then I peeled off the protective backing on the adhesive sheet and I stacked them to create what looked like more of like a chipboard effect. So I wanted, everything was so dimensional on here that it felt weird to have this just all of a sudden be flat. So I chose to keep the 1, and the ST I actually took from, so I did first, I took the ST from Congrats or somewhere, I can't remember where I did, but I took it from here. I think I took the S from here and the T from the Congrats, and I like switched them around, and you can't even tell until you look really up close that they're 2 separate letters. So you can make your own letters, and you could do 3rd or 4th. You can just use the letters that are already there. I knew I wanted to keep those flat, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to do these dimensional just because I wanted that dimension to be felt all the way through. Same with the photos. This bigger photo I knew was the focal point. So what I did with that is I made that one 3-dimensional as well, so you can see how it pops up there. But I wanted to give it a softness against the background instead of putting cardstock on the pattern. What I did is I backed the photo in the same cardstock colors I was using for the flowers, but then I did a nice thin layer of vellum here, and that just creates a little bit of softness and adds a nice little delicate feel to a delicate kind of scrapbook page.
Now that we've kind of gone through the big bulky make, which is the scrapbook page, I wanted to show you the other ideas that I kind of thought up of that as I was making the page, I'm going, well, if you did this as a page, why couldn't you also make the theme out of it? So I kind of reverse engineered it a little bit because I wanted to show you how you could do it in real time. I was obviously making the project and then thought, wait a second, I could do something really fun with this. So now I'm going to show you some things that you kind of see at birthday parties, especially first birthdays. There's milestones that you want to highlight. You obviously want to do cute little treat bags or gifts for people, birthday cards. So I've got a few projects here. I'm going to walk you through each of them, the details and the dies and the techniques that I used, in hopes that it gives you some inspiration to incorporate into your celebrations.
So the next project I wanted to show was something I've seen at quite a few parties, especially for those first birthdays. I really feel like you can adapt this to kind of any kind of celebration. If you were doing first birthday, they do what they call milestone moments, or milestone banners, we'll say. And so I've seen my friends do this at their kids' birthdays. It's also something I've seen pretty prevalently online. So I wanted to take that same die set that we've been working with and really kind of pull it all the way through all the project makes. So what I've done is I've gone forward with this floral cluster, and now I've incorporated it into this banner piece that I'm creating. So the idea with these kind of milestone moment ones is that you would then attach a photo below for the month that the child is. So for example, let's pretend this child is 1 month old. You would then take this photo and you could glue it on there, or you could take a clothespin and glue the clothespin to the back of this and then have the photo hang from the clothespin. But you'll see I've added hole punches to all of these so that I could string them along on a banner, or you could not hole punch and again do the clothespin here and then mount that onto a wood board, or onto the wall, whatever you kind of feel like. But the idea is that you attach the photo to the month that it corresponds to. You could do this, like I said, for any other birthday, and it could be milestones throughout the year that they've had, or it could be for an engagement party and it has, you know, their anniversary photos or special moments they've been through. And the one thing that's great about this kind of a project is you can customize and personalize it. So I was actually using the alphanumeric bold Thinlet set, and I was cutting out all of the numbers for the months, but because it's an alphabet set, which I've got right here off to the side, so I'm going to grab that real quick. What's nice about the alphabet sets is then you can just customize it to whatever you want. So because it's an alphabet, I had it on one of our printed magnetic sheets. So you get this nice side that'll hold stamps, and then you have this side that's the magnet sheet and holds all of the numbers, letters, everything. So I've already got my trusty Sidekick right here. If you are not familiar with the Sidekick, it is the greatest little tiny machine for when you're working with small projects like this. I love my other big shot machines, but sometimes I just want something that will just cut a little flower and cut it quickly. So that's why I've pulled out this machine, because that's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to die cut the 6, because that's the one I'm missing. I've got 3, 4, and 5 over here. I'm just going to pull them in so you can see how easy it is to kind of make these and how quickly you can. So what I've done is I've taken the scallop circle. We have every great craft stash has nested shapes. I will say that. This is something, I have a whole binder full of different shapes like this at home, and that the shapes nest inside each other so you can create tags or just really cool backgrounds, or you can even like cut on the fold and create card bases. So I pulled out my scalloped one, and I've cut out all of my backgrounds with the scallop circle. I obviously did that on a larger machine because that is not something that will fit through, at least this size will not fit through the Sidekick. So I've already pre-cut that, but I can cut all my smaller pieces on my Sidekick. And so I've got a piece of our smooth white cardstock right here, and I'm going to die cut this, and I've got it adhesive back just to make my life easier putting this together. And I'm going to put my one cutting pad there on the bottom, and then with the Sidekick, they've got their own specialty cutting pads. So you want to make sure when you're doing this that you have the cutting pads that work for this machine, which happen to be one of my favorite colors, which is turquoise. So I'm going to take that, I'm just going to roll that through my machine. And I've got my 2 flowers real quick. Oh, I accidentally cut the wrong flowers. That serves me right. I didn't grab the background, so I'll cut that the correct one out real quick. And because I don't need that particular piece to be adhesive backed, I will just cut that out of non-adhesive backed cardstock. So we'll get that off there. And it just so happens I need to cut a few other pieces, so this works out perfectly. I'm going to cut out the flower center. Got my big leaf I want to cut out. I'm only cutting one right now. You can cut multiples as you do these. So it's nice, the Sidekick is perfect because I can get all of these like smaller pieces in through there. I messed that up, so let me just put these back on there. And you just want to hold it nice and tight until you see that handle move, and that's when you know it's ready to go through the machine. Because I'm working on top of this mat, I can't get this to affix to it very strongly, but there's this nice push thing, push and pull, like the words are escaping me today, I'm so sorry, handle right here that suctions it to whatever surface you're working on. So that also helps as you're making. So we got our pieces. I'm just going to cut one little leaf real quick, and then you'll see how quickly these come together. So normally I would have cut another leaf But I'm just going to cut one because I think you get the idea. Sorry, I'm trying to get this from a very awkward angle. When I work with these at home, it's really easy. So when I'm doing something that I have to cut a lot of small pieces, I always grab my Sidekick. I do not bother doing the small pieces through the larger machine because I just have to crank so much longer. So that's something I highly recommend is especially if you're bulk making and you're bulk making something small, grab your Sidekick. You can thank me later. It's really nice and easy to run through your thinlits, and it has great pressure, so I've never had an issue with any of that. So now I've got the front of my flower. I'm just using my die pick to clean out those little detailed pieces. And I'm going to affix this to the framelit piece below. That, again, that little tone on tone. And because I did an adhesive sheet on that, it goes right on, no mess. Then I've got my little piece right here, and I'm going to grab some adhesive. I'm just going to put a little dab of express glue right there in the center. And take this lovely little flower center and put it right on top. Okay. And then while that's adhering together, I'm going to take my leaf and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to these lower portions of the leaf. I don't want to do it on everything. And I'm just going to center that at the bottom. I wanted to make the flowers a little bit 3D, so I took some of our foam tape roll and put that on the back of each flower just to give it a little height. Take your die pick if you can't get that piece to start coming off. Just take your die pick and it'll start to pull it for you. So I had on all of these, I did 2 of these sprigs and 2 of these leaves. So I'm just doing one right now to show you if you wanted to simplify it even further to get it done quickly, how it would look even with just one. We'll put it there. So you could simplify it if you don't have time and you just really want to get it done quickly. You can just cut one of everything. I did cut out my number 6 right here, so I'm just going to push those letters out. And what I did is before I went through and put everything on these other ones, I did the hole punch so I would have something to center my letters with. So I took that hole and I would take the center letter and center it right below that. So that helped me kind of evenly space things out. Here's a pink heart, or not a pink heart, but a gold sequin heart that just keeps wanting to join this project. So then you would just kind of space out the other letters on either side. Obviously, I chose an alphabet I knew would fit the numerals that I wanted across. You could also do these on much larger ones and do large scale numbers if you wanted to, versus actually like writing it out long form like I did. You could just do the numerals if you wanted to. So that's what it looks like if you want to just do it quick and fast. Add a hole punch, add a number there if you wanted. Now if you wanted it to be something just a little bit longer, then you could do this, which is what I did, which is to actually have them all come out like that.
And let's say you don't want to do flowers at all, but you still want to jump on this celebration theme, especially for kids or loved ones. Now I wanted to show you 2 cards that you can do. Now I didn't do a ton of other projects with this, but I think kind of seeing what I've done with this one, you can imagine the different types of things that you can do with it. But I wanted to show you bright, cheery color palette with a totally different theme, if that makes any sense. So let's take a look at some other ideas that you can use for celebrations.
Let's say florals aren't your thing now, but you want to do something really sweet and personalized for a birthday party you have to go to or a birthday party you're hosting. We also have a couple other dies in chapter 1 that are really lovely, and I love playing around with really unique shapes and then trying to make things blend together that make no sense together. That's just something I have fun doing. So this one right here is called Geo Frames and Borders. This one's by Lisa Jones. And she has released this in conjunction with this little set called Nature Friends. And these little friends will say there's a bear, like a bear, a mama bear and a baby bear. There's rabbits, hedgehogs, a little chick. They all size to fit on these. And these are a really decent size. Like you can see the palm of my hand. That's a very large scale kind of border. And it comes in these really cool layering pieces. So what I decided to do was I still wanted something like very bright and summery, but something that felt like maybe for a toddler instead of a 1-year-old. So I took those geo frames and I did one where I cut off the top, and I did that intentionally. It's not just me not being able to size this properly. I wanted something where it was like it cut off the top. So I cut that off the top and I did the mama bear on this one. And then I took from our essentials set, the Christmas, I think it's Christmas decorations is the one I pulled it from. And I pulled the bow from there and then I cut the hat and I used the little dots in there to create this party hat. So I made the party hat. I just cut a triangle and then added the dots from that die set to make the pom-poms. Then I took this from a Christmas set. So again, taking those things you may already have in your stash and repurposing them for other things. This is that alphanumeric stretch again. And then I added some of our rose gold sequins on there. And you have a lovely little card for the mama bear. And then I did this in similar tones, but much brighter. Same thing. Use those geo frames and borders, use those nature friends, created my little hat. This is actually an ornament that I've turned upside down to look like a balloon. So take a look at your shapes and think about, oh, it's a hanging ornament, but what else could it be? It could be a decorative balloon. So it's really fun to take things that you wouldn't normally use something for and turn them into something completely different.
So I've shown you a lot of ideas that have very spring-toned kind of color palettes, but let's say you want to take this die set and turn it into something that you can use all year round. I'm going to show you a few projects now that hopefully you'll be able to see that a lot of times with any type of floral or any type of die, all you have to do is change the colors and you've made that die now work for different types of celebrations, different occasions, and just made it really evergreen through all the seasons, especially with florals. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to take a floral die set and show how it can be used through all 4 seasons. But I'm going to give you kind of like a fall toned one, just because I really love fall tones, but I think it's just a nice way to show you that how you can take it from spring color palettes and take it to the extreme opposite, which is very like dark and muted and deep saturated tones. So let me show you what some ideas you can do for the fall.
And finally, let's say you don't want to do anything spring or summer oriented and you just want to use this die set later on in the year. Here's a lovely fall tone that you can do with it. So for this one, I did that tone on tone, but the whole way through the card. And then I went back in with a white gel pen and added some detailing on there. A white gel pen is the greatest way to add fine little details onto something and make it feel a little bit more decorative than it was. And it's quick and easy. Then I took the thanks from that variety sentiment set again and stacked that so that you can see I have a dimensional sentiment there, and added that to the front of the card. and I'm sure this looks familiar. That's because it's the same as this one right here, just in a different color palette with a different sentiment. But I wanted to point out on this one how I did the exact same thing, like tone on tone, but on this one I stacked the sentiment, and I think that the stacked sentiment I like a little bit more, so I might go back and add more layers to the other one. And it just makes everything feel like cohesive by having that stacked portion in the middle, and then you've got these other pieces that are elevated with foam tape. It just kind of makes it all work. And then this last one is just a simple card, but I wanted to do something where I cut everything out of the same color, and then I went in with a black pen and added in all of these details. So you can do it with a white pen, you can do it with a black pen. Again, those variety sentiments right there with the love you. But if you have no interest whatsoever in doing those bright and spring summer tones, take your Thinlits year round and make them work for you throughout all the seasons.
Well, I hope that you are inspired today. I certainly, once I got started making, kept thinking of ideas and didn't get to all of them today, but there's definitely a lot of other things you can do. You can customize your favor boxes. You could make customized banners. It's such a nice way, especially with Thinlits and alphabet Thinlits, that you can personalize everything to what you want to do. And just by changing color schemes or pulling in what you already have in your craft stash, you can really pull together those nice personal little details and touches. So whether you are choosing to memory keep after the event, or you want to do something completely different, don't feel afraid to change colors and come up with your own ways of making something feel different for each season. At the end of the day, it's all about taking those moments and memories of yours and turning them into everlasting moments. And we here at Sizzix love to see what you are commemorating. So please, if you are making anything special for a celebration or a community event or anything where you might just want to put your little personal spin and touch on it, please share with us on our hashtag #MySizzixStory. We love seeing what you're making, and we love sharing what you're making. So that's it for me today. I hope you are all doing well. I wish you the merriest and the happiest New Year, although merry is really more Christmassy. But why can't we be merry all year round, right? But yeah, I hope 2023 is everything you hope for, and I really hope that you get to capture those memories this year.